My son uninvited me from his wedding he didn't know I owned, the $60 million resort they booked. Hello, my beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel. Before we begin, if you believe in the power of karma, in the unbreakable bond of a mother's love, and in the justice that the universe sometimes delivers in the most unexpected ways, then you need to hear this story. This isn't just a story of betrayal, it's a story of healing, and it's all true. So, get comfortable. Maybe grab a tissue, and please, if you've ever felt underestimated or cast aside, I want you to leave a comment down below with the word karma when this is over. Let's see how powerful our community really island. My name is Mary. For 28 years, my entire world was my son, Daniel. His father, my husband Michael, passed away when Daniel was just 7 years old. Cancer, it was a darkness I didn't think I'd ever escape. But I had to for Danny. I worked 3 jobs, a day shift as a receptionist, evenings typing up legal documents, and weekends cleaning offices. We lived in a small apartment. Our budget was tighter than a drum, but we had love. Oh, did we have love? I'd skip meals so he could have new shoes for school. I'd stay up all night sewing costumes for his school play. He was my reason for breathing. As he grew older, he became ambitious. He wanted the finer things in life, and I admired that drive. I supported him through college, taking on even more debt to make sure he graduated without any. I was so proud of the man he was becoming. Then he met Chloe. Now, let me be clear, this story is not about vilifying Chloe. It's about choices, Daniel's choices. From the moment he introduced us, there was a chill. Chloe came from old money. Her family, the Greens, lived in a mansion overlooking the city. Her father, Charles, was a bulldozer of a man, all sharp suits and sharper criticisms. Her mother, Beatrice, was a socialite whose smile never quite reached her eyes. I remember the first dinner we had together. I'd saved for weeks to take them to a nice but not extravagant restaurant. I saw Chloe's nose wrinkle as she looked at the menu. Charles asked Daniel about his 5-year plan and then spent the next 20 minutes explaining why it was inadequate. I tried to join the conversation to talk about Daniel's incredible compassion as a boy, but Beatrice cut me off with a wave of her hand. "Sentimentality doesn't pay the bills, does it, dear?" Daniel said nothing. He just stared at his plate. That dinner became a pattern. Slowly, subtly, I was being erased. My calls went unanswered for days. When I did see Daniel, he was always in a rush, always distracted. He started making comments. "Mum, maybe you should update your wardrobe." Or, "Chloe's mother says that neighbourhood is really going downhill." It was 1,000 tiny paper cuts on my heart. The final blow came 8 months ago. Daniel came over, his face a mask of nervous excitement. "Mom, I proposed. Chloe said yes," he said. The joy that flooded me was instantaneous. I threw my arms around him, crying happy tears. "Oh, Danny, that's wonderful news. I'm so happy for you." He pulled back, his expression turning serious. "There's just one thing. Well, a few things. About the wedding. Anything, sweetheart. You know I'll help however I can." He took a deep breath. "Chloe and her mother have already planned everything. It's going to be at the Crystal Cove Resort in the Bahamas." My breath hitched. Crystal Cove. I knew it well. It was the most exclusive, luxurious resort in the Caribbean. A place for celebrities and billionaires. The kind of place I'd only ever seen in magazines. "That's incredible, Danny. But the cost..." "Chloe's parents are covering it," he said quickly. "They insist. They want it to be perfect. And that leads to the other thing." He couldn't look me in the eye. He studied a crack in my old floorboard as if it held the secrets of the universe. "Mum, we think it would be best if you didn't come to the wedding." The room tilted. The words didn't make sense. They were sounds, empty and cruel, that hung in the air between us. "What?" I whispered, the words scraping my throat raw. "It's not personal," he said, his voice pleading but firm. "It's just your vibe. It's not really what they're going for. Chloe's family has a very specific circle. It's a black-tie, ultra-exclusive event. They're worried you might feel out of place, or that you'd say something awkward. You know, about the old days or something. It's for the best, Mum, really. We'll have a separate dinner for you afterward, I promise." I felt like I'd been hollowed out. My own son, the boy I'd breathed life into. He was standing in the home I'd provided for him, telling me I wasn't good enough for the most important day of his life. That, my love, my struggles, my very being, was an embarrassment. Tears streamed down my face, silent and hot. "Daniel, I'm your mother." "And I need you to be a mother now, and understand," he snapped, a flash of the entitled stranger he'd become finally showing itself. "This is my future. This is everything I've worked for. Don't ruin this for me with your guilt." He left shortly after, leaving me alone in the crushing silence of my apartment. The pain was a physical weight on my chest. I didn't eat for 2 days. I just cried. I cried for the little boy who used to bring me dandelions, for the husband I lost, for the future I thought I would have. But around the 3rd day, something else stirred in me. A deep, quiet, steely resolve. You see, my dear viewers, my husband Michael didn't just leave me with a broken heart and a 7-year-old boy. He left me with a secret. Before he passed, Michael, who was a brilliant but unlucky financial analyst, had one last wild gamble pay off. He invested every penny we had, which wasn't much, into a fledgling tech startup everyone thought was crazy. He made me promise to keep it a secret, to never touch the single share he owned, to let it ride for Daniel's future. He called it his Hail Mary. For 20 years I forgot about it. The company? It became a global tech giant. That single share? It split and split and split again. By the time Daniel was in college, that investment was worth over $80 million. And I never touched a dime. I never told a soul. I lived my humble life because it was my life. It was honest. It was real. The money was for Daniel's future, for his children. It was managed by a discreet private firm, and I lived off the interest, which was more than enough for my simple needs, though I never flaunted it. To the world, I was just Mary, the struggling widow. But now, that money represented something else. Power, a power I never wanted to use. I made a phone call to my financial manager, James. "James," I said, my voice calm for the first time in weeks. "The Crystal Cove Resort in the Bahamas. Who owns it?" There was a rustle of papers, the clicking of a keyboard. "It's owned by a shell corporation, which is part of a larger hospitality group, which is, interestingly enough, a subsidiary of the Aether Holdings Group." I closed my eyes. Aether Holdings? The name of the private trust that held my fortune? "Which means?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Which means, Mary," James said, a note of confusion in his voice. "You own it. You acquired it in the portfolio merger last year. You're the sole beneficial owner." A slow, serene smile spread across my face. Karma, my dear friends, doesn't always wait for the next life. Sometimes it gets a little push. "James," I said, my voice now laced with a new, purposeful energy, "I need you to do something for me, and it requires absolute secrecy." The plan was set in motion. I instructed James to inform the resort's general manager, a wonderful man named Mr. Henderson, of the ownership change and to expect my arrival incognito. I would be introduced as a VIP hospitality consultant hired to ensure the flawless execution of the Green Williams wedding. My cover story was that I was there to observe and report back to the mysterious owner. I flew to the Bahamas a week before the wedding. The resort was breathtaking. Powder-white beaches, turquoise water, villas built into the cliffs like something from a dream. Mr. Henderson, a man in his 50s with kind eyes and a professional demeanour, was waiting for me. He'd been fully briefed by James and was appropriately deferential without making it obvious. "The wedding party arrives tomorrow, Miss Mary," he said as he gave me a private tour. "Shall I make any specific arrangements?" "Just one," I said, looking out at the endless ocean. "I want full access, everywhere, and I want to see the master guest list." The next day, I watched from the balcony of my private villa as Daniel, Chloe, and the Greens arrived. They were greeted with chilled champagne and a red carpet treatment. Chloe preened, Beatrice took photos for her social media, and Charles looked like he owned the place. Daniel puffed out his chest, basking in the reflected glory. He looked every inch the wealthy heir, not the boy who grew up wearing hand-me-downs. My heart ached, but it was now encased in ice. The days leading up to the wedding were a masterclass in hypocrisy. I observed everything, blending into the background in a staff polo shirt and sunglasses. I heard Beatrice complaining about the quality of the imported roses. I heard Charles loudly debating stock options by the pool, trying to impress anyone who would listen. I saw Chloe bossing around the wedding planners, demanding impossible changes. And I saw Daniel, my son. He never once mentioned me. When friends asked if I was coming, he'd just shake his head and say, "She couldn't make it. Not really her scene." He had completely rewritten our history to fit his new narrative. The day of the wedding arrived. The resort was transformed into a fairy tale. Orchids hung from every arch, a string quartet played, and the air smelled of salt and expensive perfume. I dressed not in a staff uniform, but in a stunning, elegant ivory pantsuit I'd had specially made. I looked every bit the owner of this paradise. I stood at the back of the ceremony site, hidden behind a large floral arrangement as the guests were seated. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The music swelled. Chloe began her walk down the aisle, a vision in lace worth more than my first house. She reached the altar where Daniel stood, beaming. The minister began to speak. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join this man and this woman." I took a deep breath and stepped out from behind the flowers. I walked slowly, purposefully, down the centre aisle. A whisper rippled through the crowd. Who was this woman? Was she part of the show? I saw Daniel's face first. His smile froze, then shattered into utter confusion and panic. Chloe followed his gaze, and her eyes widened in horror. Charles Green half stood from his seat, his face purpling with rage. I stopped a few feet from the altar. "Mom?" Daniel hissed, the microphone picking up his stunned whisper. "What are you doing? How did you get in here? Security!" "Hello, Daniel," I said, my voice calm and clear, amplified for everyone to hear. "I told you I would always be there for the most important days of your life, and a mother keeps her promises." The minister looked utterly bewildered. "I'm sorry, madam, but this is a private ceremony." "Oh, I know," I said, turning to address the entire audience of 200 stunned guests. "I know every detail, the iced vintage Dom Perignon for the toast, the 5-tier vanilla bean cake with gold leaf detailing, the fireworks display scheduled for 9 p.m. sharp. I know because I approved every single invoice." I turned my gaze back to my son, whose face was now a mask of dawning, terrible realization. "You uninvited me from your wedding, Daniel. You told me my vibe wasn't right for this place. You were ashamed of the mother who worked her fingers to the bone for you. But you never once asked how I managed to pay for your college. You never wondered how I always made ends meet. I took another step forward, my eyes locking with his. You didn't know that the father you barely remember left you a fortune I guarded and grew for you, a fortune that, it turns out, owns this very resort. Every single brick, every single flower, every single glass of champagne, it's all mine. The gasps from the audience were audible. Chloe was crying now, real tears of shock and humiliation. Charles looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. So, while you have every legal right to be married here today, I continued, my voice softening but losing none of its power, I, as the owner, have every right to withdraw my blessing. And I do. This wedding, built on pretense, social climbing, and the betrayal of a mother's love, will not happen on my property. I nodded to Mr. Henderson, who was standing discreetly at the side. He spoke into his radio. The wedding is concluded, I announced. The staff will now assist you all in retrieving your belongings. Transportation to the airport and hotels in Nassau has been arranged. Your money will be refunded in full. Chaos erupted. Guests stood up, talking, shouting, phones raised to record the entire spectacle. Daniel just stood there, paralyzed, looking at me not with anger, but with a horrifying, gut-wrenching shame. He finally saw me, not as the embarrassment, but as the architect of his entire world, which was now crumbling around him. I turned and walked back up the aisle, my head held high. I didn't look back. I didn't stay for the aftermath. I flew home that evening. The silence in my apartment was no longer crushing. It was peaceful. It was mine. A week later, a letter arrived. It was from Daniel. "Mom," it began, "there are no words to express the shame and regret I feel. I lost myself. I got so caught up in a world that wasn't real, I betrayed the one person who was. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. The wedding is off. Chloe and her family will never speak to me again, and I don't blame them. I saw myself clearly for the first time on that altar, and I was horrified. I am so sorry. I just hope that one day I can become a man you might be proud of again." I cried when I read it, not tears of pain but of release, of hope. I haven't given him his inheritance. Not yet. Money was the poison that corrupted him in the first place. He needs to find his way back to himself without it. He started therapy. He's taken a job, a real one, not one handed to him by Charles Green. We talk. It's strained and it's slow, but we talk. The road to forgiveness is long, but I see him trying to walk it. Karma isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about a brutal, necessary lesson. It's about tearing down the false structures so something real can be built in their place. I showed him that the value of a person isn't in their bank account or their social standing. It's in their heart. It's in their integrity. And thankfully, I think my son is finally starting to remember that. So, what do you think, my dear viewers? Was I too harsh? Or was it a lesson he needed to learn? Have you ever been underestimated because of how you look, or how much money people think you have? Let me know in the comments below and tell me, what would you have done in my situation? If this story resonated with you, if you believe in the power of truth and redemption, then give this video a like and subscribe for more stories about life, karma, and the lessons that shape us. And don't forget to hit that bell icon so you never miss a new chapter. Remember, your value is not dictated by anyone else. It is inherent. It is yours. Never let anyone make you feel otherwise. Until next time, choose kindness, but never mistake kindness for weakness.